Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today I am joined by a very, very special guest. Joining me today is Mr. J.J. Roberts, safety slash nickel cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Defensive back, really. I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but you're learning everything. J.J., how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you for being on. This is one that I was definitely wanted to get you in for an interview because, you've got such an interesting story, in my opinion. And one thing I wanted to start off with, which I thought was so cool whenever I was looking at you and your story and some of the other things that you've done throughout your not just football career, but your life in general, is you're very big on just being in the community in terms of volunteering and all these different types of things. Where did that come from? Just kind of talk about that for a minute, because I think that's such a cool aspect of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, looking up to even like high school football players. It could have been anyone on the team really. So when I think about like giving back to the community, I just kind of think about giving it forward. I know that's probably like a cliche, but I really do enjoy giving back to, the community that helped me especially come up. I remember going to football camps and being invested in stuff like that as a kid. And then, I think about now, if I was that kid then, it would mean a lot if I did something, for the kid. And then, same thing, like vice versa, doing stuff just for the community, giving out food, just anything like that. I just think it's good to just give to the community and give back.
I think that's awesome. I can't wait to see what you do with the Bucs and stuff like that, just in terms of community activities and services and whatnot in the Tampa Bay community. I think it's going to be an awesome thing to keep track of.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. They went through we do this thing called Rookie Academy. So I mean they basically been presenting and like the opportunities that you can give back to the community. They have a lot going on here, so I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you did mention it. You grew up in Ona, West Virginia, I believe is how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
Now I think that's awesome. And I remember when I was doing the research, you were the number four prospect in West Virginia at the time, coming out of high school, going into college. You were the Gatorade West Virginia Player of the Year in your senior season. And one thing I thought was pretty interesting was you played quarterback and cornerback. It was an option
Yeah.
offense, right? I mean, video game stats here, JJ. 1,426 rushing yards and 23 rushing touchdowns. What made you stay at cornerback? Did you think at all, saying, "Hey, maybe I could
Man.
transition to running back or something"?
The thought did cross my mind. Offensive players get more love, usually. And really, it came down to Coach TJ Carper. He's really the reason I switched to defense in the first place. I played defense from my freshman year. Freshman year on, I didn't play football my eighth grade year actually,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't really going to play football in high school. And then TJ and Coach Sammons, my head coach, just approached me. I guess they like saw that I was an athlete, and they invited me to play. So I decided to play football, and I was an offensive kid basically my whole life. I always like played both ways, but yeah, you never really take it to heart as a kid. And Coach TJ actually pulled me aside one day, and he said, "If you want to make your money, switch to corner." So as a freshman in high school, you don't exactly think about playing cornerback, especially since like you always want to have the ball in your hand. So from that point on, sophomore year, I ended up starting varsity. Junior year, played a little bit of safety and corner. Made a lot of plays then, and senior year, I ended up playing quarterback too. So I got to play both ways there, and yeah, man, I definitely had the thought about trying to play some offense, but ultimately, I still felt like what TJ told me was the right move for me, and it paid off to where I am now. But the thought always crosses my mind playing offense. So
So that's an interesting bit of the story too. Was you said, I wasn't really gonna play football until these coaches came out and said, "Dude, you're a freak athlete. Come play." That's an interesting aspect of the story as well. So, um, was it just a situation of, "Hey, I want to focus on other things," or what went into that?
We cut out there. What'd you say?
No, no, you're good. So I said, that was an interesting bit of the story where, you said like, hey, wasn't really sure if I was going to play football, and then my coaches came out and said, hey, come play football. You're a freak athlete. So what went into that? Like, what made you? I mean, obviously, we know what made you play football, but what were you thinking about doing instead of playing football?
So originally I played a lot of basketball
Mm-hmm.
and I like mentally, felt like basketball was going to be my whole sport.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, I was not big enough to play basketball. Obviously that I was athletic enough and I was a really good basketball player. But it comes down to a point where you're like, okay, I'm not going to be. We were playing tournaments in Greensboro. We were going to these gauntlets, and I kind of realized then I'm not 6'4". Everybody, all the point guards I'm going against 6'4", 6'5". I'm like, okay, I think I might need to focus my career on football, and that happened around my sophomore year of high school. So that was really one of the main reasons I ended up just sticking with football. Just because of the hype piece of basketball. So
For sure. And hey, you know what? It did end up working out, right? So
yeah.
one thing I thought that was super interesting was you had an offer from, I believe, Miami of Ohio. You had a
hmm
visit with Penn State, but you chose Wake Forest. What made
Yeah.
you choose Wake Forest?
Yeah, that's a good question. So they were my first Power Five offer. I didn't have an offer there until I went to the opening camp in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the opening in Ohio, did really well there. Before they were just kind of asking me to come to camp. They were going to watch me work out and then go from there. But I did really well at the opening. I did basically the same stuff as I did pro day. And I did really well in one-on-ones. And after that, they invited me up just for a visit, and they ended up offering me. And Coach Clausen showed me a lot of love. Coach Crawford, who I still sometimes talk to,
Mm-hmm.
he also was recruiting me to play there, and the staff was awesome. I really liked the campus, and really everybody there was very welcoming and open arms when it came to me. Especially, it meant a lot, especially from a kid from West Virginia, who really didn't think about like having a chance like that. So I really just took that in stride, and that was really the main reason. They were the first Power Five school, and they really did show me a lot of love. So
And you played with some dogs on that team. I mean,
yeah,
like Kenneth
yeah.
Walker the third was there, Boogie Basham, A.T. Perry, Sam Hartman. Were there any? I know you mentioned a couple of guys, but are there any other specific teammates or coaches that you felt like you learned a lot from at Wake Forest?
Uh, Honestly, for the most part, we had a player. His name was Luke Masterson.
Mm-hmm.
I
Linebacker,
believe
right?
he's on the Raiders. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah. He was originally a safety. So when I first went in, they had moved me to safety,
Mm-hmm.
and I was an immature freshman, coming into college. And just kind of watching how he did things really set it into perspective because he took everything so serious. And I didn't learn it then, but looking back on it, I was trying to mimic stuff that he did, and just trying to learn from just watching to see how he did things. So really, he was one of the main people I looked at, and I saw, okay, like I got to take this more seriously if I want to take it to the next level. So that's really the one person that I remember sticking in my brain.
Shout out Masterson, man.
Yeah, shout out Luke.
So you went on from Wake Forest. You were there for a couple of seasons, and then you decided to come back to Marshall, back home, right, to finish out
hmm
your college career. Now, you went from playing in Wake Forest, literally from being, I think it's like 20 minutes or something like that, from your hometown, from Ona over to Marshall's stadium, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So was playing closer at home a big sticking point for you, and what else went into that decision to transfer?
Yeah. Honestly, when I first entered the portal, I wasn't thinking Marshall. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking, a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I got the offer from Virginia Tech, Virginia. So I mean, I had options, and my original, my original direction was wanting to go to West Virginia University.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to play there too. And obviously I grew up going to Marshall games and I went to West Virginia games, but
Hmm.
in my mind, West Virginia was higher caliber of football.
Hmm.
And going into I had a visit there after I had all my offers. I went up to West Virginia. I went through the whole day, and I thought like I had basically solidified an offer. I was prepared to commit on the spot,
Oh wow.
and yeah, it was a whole thing. So I had my outro meeting, and I ended up not getting offered, which was one of those things where I'm like, oh dang. But here's the funny thing was Coach Huff.
Hmm.
I love Coach Huff. He's really one of the best out there, and he was hounding me the whole time, like, "Hey, come to Marshall, come to Marshall." And Marshall, in high school, I did want to play for Marshall, but Marshall didn't offer me out of high school.
Hmm.
So I ended up, committing to Marshall. I had prayed about it a lot,
Hmm.
and the thing God told me was step down to step up, and really, I just took that as, in most people's eyes, Marshall is a step down from Wake Forest. But in order to get to the level that I want to get to, I'm going to have to make this step down so I can elevate myself in the future. And funny enough, West Virginia offered me the day after I committed, but it was too late. I
Too
had
little,
already
too
set my
late.
mind on it. Yeah, so
Wow.
it worked out really well for me. So
No, no, I agree because one thing I thought was so interesting, and obviously you and Mike Green were the two big guys to come out of Marshall after this draft to get into the NFL. And everybody talks about Mike, but people forget JJ. You were second on the team in tackles 2 years in a row at Marshall. I mean, you were racking up some stats. So like, what went into that success those 2 years you were at Marshall? Because like you said, step down to step up type thing. It's
yeah,
exactly what happened, essentially, right?
yeah. So really, it was a whole process because my last year at Wake Forest, I played cornerback the entirety of the season. And the year before that, I played corner for the second half and nickel in the first half. So when I got to Marshall, naturally was expecting to, be a cornerback because they had just had Gilmore leave.
Hmm.
So in my brain, I'm like, okay, they got a corner spot vacated, and funny enough, I get there going through the whole off-season workout uh, regimen, and first day, like our pre-spring practice, they just throw me out there at safety. They're like, "Hey, you're playing safety." I'm like, okay, this is new news to me, but I just did it. I went out there and I ended up doing really well. Really just not how I planned it, it never is how I planned it in my head anyways. But yeah, I started playing safety from then on out. Obviously I played a little bit of safety my freshman year at Wake Forest.
Hmm.
I started against Louisville, mainly because everybody had COVID. So,
Tends to
that's not
happen.
really much, yeah, not much to hang my hat on. I did not play good that game, but yeah, so I ended up playing safety at Marshall my first year there. I thought I did okay. I had you know, a few injuries happen, which I'm sure maybe you were going to ask about.
Hmm.
Uh, but I'll go into that when you ask about it. But yeah, so that's really how it went down. I kind of just learned the position as I went along, and a big piece of my development this year was Coach Shoup.
Hmm.
He was previously defensive coordinator for Penn State, Mississippi State, so he had a lot of knowledge, and he was a safety coach this year for us. And I really excelled because he was able to coach me and help me develop, as a player and a person. So I really give him a lot of props for this past year's development.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question. Was talking about overcoming those injuries that you'd had. I know you had missed a couple of games in 23, and stuff like that. So, whenever you had those injuries, but still were able to put up those stats that I had mentioned, kind of what went into those, like what went into that perseverance? I guess I should say.
Yeah, a lot of prayer. I'm a big man of faith.
Hmm.
I believe in Jesus, and I believe that I'm where I'm at because of him, and solely because of him and his plan for me as he directs my path. Really, the only thing that I did to overcome that was prayer and just, trusting God's plan for me because, like you said, my stats were still pretty good after my first year after missing essentially 4 games.
Right.
Um, I came back, I had the concussion in like game 10, game 9 or so,
Mm-hmm.
and then I came back and ended up rolling my ankle really badly to where I needed surgery on it. And mentally, I did tell myself, dang, I had this, and this as a stat line. Imagine if I played all the games in the season, which realistically speaking, you can't go back in time and change it. So, I was kind of just dragging myself through the mud with that. But yeah, when it came to after my surgery on my ankle, after the 23 season, it was really rough mentally just because, ankle surgery is no joke for anyone. And, there's a lot of players that have went through ankle surgery that have came back, nowhere near the same level that they were before. And that was really a big concern of mine. So going through rehab, a really rough process. I was originally supposed to be out for like 6.5 months. I was, walking on it way before I was supposed to at my house, which, is
Yeah.
not recommended. But,
Yeah.
I just kind of testing it, pushing myself, to the limits that I was able to. And I ended up coming back in like 3 months from it. And, obviously it lingered a little bit, but I mean, I think that just kind of is a testament to what you can do if you just kind of put your mind to something. And I came back, I felt faster, I felt better, felt more explosive. And I really think, along with Coach Shoop helped me, that, it all just kind of went together this past year.
That's that Aaron Rodgers type recovery speed, man. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
Enigma on Netflix, but he basically came back from I think it was a torn Achilles in about a couple of months like that. So
Hmm.
that's what it reminded me. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, no, Aaron, no, I've seen clips of that, and that's pretty crazy because an Achilles is a real deal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so following up on kind of your time from Marshall and stuff like that, there was something I was so interested about in regards to your pre-draft process. Okay, so
Gotcha.
I remember I saw that the pro day for you was a really, really big deal.
Hmm.
Talk about how big of a deal that was for you in your pre-draft process. And did you notice any differences from teams being interested in you before and after the pro day?
Yeah. Play especially like a player at my like level, at the G5 level.
Hmm.
I feel like pro days mean a lot to players like me. Um, yeah, honestly speaking, before pro day in my mind, I was thinking pro day is what will make or break my recruitment.
Wow. Okay.
Um, that's just how I was thinking. I had great stats and everything from the season, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, let me just add icing onto the cake by putting up numbers, and solidifying myself to get drafted.
Right.
I obviously, like you said, I had an amazing pro day. I give all the glory to God for that. Obviously, I was doing the work like lifting, etc. But he gave me the abilities and he allowed me to go out there and showcase what ultimately I already believed that I had.
Hmm.
After I definitely did receive, a lot more attention,
Okay.
naturally so with the numbers that I put up. And honestly, I fully believe that I was getting drafted.
Hmm.
What I'd been told and everything that went into it, I was 99.9% sure I was going
Wow.
to get drafted. Yeah, just because of, like you said, my stats, and then on top of that, my pro day numbers, and having the versatility to play every secondary position.
Hmm.
From what I heard, I was getting drafted. I had 5 top 30 visits.
Yeah.
Which were like a really big deal for me. And honestly, the pro day, I felt like the pro day was going to get me drafted. And then after the draft came around, and I'm waiting around like, dang, I don't know what's going on right now because
Hmm.
in my mind I was like late fifth, early sixth, maybe even a little bit sooner than that, just considering like the circumstances. But
The level of interest.
um, yes, it was just crazy how it worked out. I'm sitting there like, what is going on right now? Pro day, got family around me,
Hmm.
sitting there just staring at the screen blankly.
Hmm.
But obviously it all works out. But I know my agent, basically the Bucs gave me were really aggressive in, wanting me to come and be a free agent there. And I came here for a top 30.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. The staff here is awesome. Coach Rapone, the safety coach, and Coach Tim are really awesome.
Hmm.
So I ended up, you know, picking here. So looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything. Everything that I did wasn't for no reason, and it's directed me here. So that's really how pro day affected that whole process.
So, do you think it's fair to say, just because I've had a thought about it before, where it's, guys who don't get to go to the combine or something like that, that pro day is their combine, essentially. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
hmm And honestly, I was shocked I didn't even get an invite to the
Hmm.
combine. I don't know really what goes into that. I think you get voted for. My agent told me I was a few votes short of being invited to the combine. On top of that, I had the accolades with it.
Right.
The All-American, pass breakups.
Hmm.
And I mean, I thought I was going to get an invite to the combine too. And honestly, that would have really helped me out. I feel like just getting all the medical and everything done there. But yeah, pro day is literally just like an extension of the combine. And on top of it, Mike Green was at ours, so we had like 28 teams present, and I was able to go out there and do what I did in front of everyone, which I really thought would help me a lot. So
Yeah. But yeah, and obviously it did, like you said, like there, because I remember there was a lot of talk about you potentially going in the later rounds, stuff like that. Now, again, as you mentioned, you did end up going undrafted. Um, you decided to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As you said, you had that top 30 visit with them. What went into that decision to sign with the Bucs? And also, I am curious about this. How close were we possibly seeing you join another team? Because as you said, I know
um
the Bucs were very aggressive in going after you.
yeah, so that's a good question. Honestly, the Bucks were the first. I think they talked to my agent like late sixth, early seventh round, like
Okay.
basically so like trying to solidify a deal. Honestly,
Hmm.
they were just really aggressive. Um, and the fact that they hadn't drafted, another safety, technically speaking, that really piqued my interest, honestly.
Hmm.
And I did feel like the staff here is very genuine uh, in wanting me to be here, and I wasn't just going to be like another player that they're just bringing in to see. So really, that was it right there. The fact that they were really aggressive, and I could tell that they were interested in me. And really, everyone here is just shown like genuine interest in me, even on my top 30. So that was really the main thing.
So you obviously answered a follow up question of mine is the Bucks reached out to you late sixth, early seventh. In your mind, is that kind of like, well, hey, I mean, basically it's like they're viewing me as a draft pick. That's kind of my interpretation of it. Is like, hey, they're calling you that early. It's like, well, kind of seems like they view you almost as like a drafted player in a way. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I had a decent amount of teams, telling me if I'm available, they're gonna get me.
Hmm.
And that's really what was like the big like
That was in the draft.
yeah, during the draft I
Wow.
had teams saying if I'm available, that's just how it goes, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I do like the fact that I do like that I feel like they're really genuine, I don't think anyone here is fake, great organization, great everyone here. Like I said, everyone here is really awesome. From the coaching staff, to management. Um, yeah, I can't exactly say that they're looking at me as a drafted player just
Sure.
because I wasn't drafted.
Right.
I kind of have to have a walk on type mentality being a free agent.
Sure.
But I do feel like I'm valued here and that I can provide for the team. So.
Yeah, and how has the experience been so far between rookie minicamp, OTAs, voluntary, mandatory minicamp, all those different types of things?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it, from working out and getting to learn how everybody is and becoming friends with a lot of the other rookies that have come in at the same time as me. It's really been awesome and a great experience so far. From rookie minicamp to the mandatory minicamp, it's all been great. So
How's the heat been?
it has been hot. It has been that's like been the biggest adjustment because it'll say 85 out there, but it'll feel like 105. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As somebody who's been born and raised in Florida, I know your pain, JJ. I know your
yeah,
pain. It's
you get a
been
sweat going just from walking into the building. It's like, oh man, like this is gonna be a rough one.
very different from West Virginia, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, who have been some of the guys you've been learning from so far during your time with the Bucs? I know you said you've obviously been leaning on, having a camaraderie with a lot of rookies and whatnot. Has there been any veterans or any other players that you've been looking to learn from or have been learning from so far?
Yeah, I've just kind of been shadowing Winfield, just to kind of see how he does stuff. It's always best to learn vicariously when you're just learning from a player, especially like him, a guy that, does everything right and, just makes it happen on the field. And honestly, every all the other safeties have been really, really kind and very helpful, providing insight when it comes to like techniques or, specific things or details that I got to do on the field. They've not hesitated to answer any questions that I've had to them, and yeah, I've never been afraid to ask a question because that's the only way you can learn. And obviously, on top of that, the coaches have helped me out a lot too. So
Well, speaking of that, I know that Coach Bowles, obviously being a former safety himself, has a very unique system. I've talked to a few other safeties about it in the past as well, where safeties and specifically defensive backs get, not, I don't want to use the word certain types of treatment, but you guys are taught, a very specific way in terms of defensive system, learning different positions and whatnot. How's that been for you? Because like you said, you've obviously had experience playing both safety and cornerback and nickel cornerback as well. So how's that experience been in the Bucs defensive system with Coach Bowles?
yeah, this defense is very elaborate, and there is a lot going on. So when I first came in for rookie minicamp, I was just at free safety. I didn't really think I was just trying to learn just free safety because there's just so much going on in the defense that it's a lot to pick up. So I think it was the second practice they of OTAs. They just said, "Hey, you're gonna start getting reps at nickel." So I had been already like studying really hard and trying to figure out what all the safety positions are doing. So I had a general idea already of what the nickel was doing, how he's supposed to do it, and then like the whys, of whatever coverage or coverage or aspect of the call it's in. So I started repping at nickel too. So I was just trying to train hybridly and just learn both at the same time just to boost my value for the program and boost my chance of obviously making the team. But it's been really fun and I've really enjoyed it. Um, like I said, this defense is very, very detailed and there's a lot going on. So you really have to be locked in at all times because, it's very easy to make a mistake, especially with how much that's put into this. But I've really enjoyed learning both positions. I'm getting more comfortable at nickel and free safety. I mean, they've both just been really fun and I've enjoyed being out there. So
Because I always explain to people, specifically for like this defense, right? It's to be an NFL caliber athlete, right? And learn one position, you have to be the best in the world, right? At
yeah,
what you're doing. Now add a second position on top of that, right?
yeah,
The level of difficulty just doubles, right? So kudos to not just you, but also all the other defensive backs who are going through the same thing with you. Do you feel like that almost like makes a camaraderie type of thing where it's like, hey, we're all trying to learn all this together, right?
yeah. It definitely does. Especially for like the other rookies that are new, coming in too. Because they realize how much is on our plates as well. I mean, there's so much that goes into this. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't understand, but definitely, learning the one position for rookie minicamp, I was like, my brain was spinning. I'm like, okay, I really gotta lock in here. And then on top of that, they threw me in there at nickel. So now, I had to double down. I'm like, okay, I can do this, but
Like a month later.
obviously, yeah, and exactly. Obviously, I know I'm capable. I'm a really smart football player. This is
Yeah,
what I do. So it's going to take some time to fully get everything down, but I'm really confident in my ability to learn and expand on my knowledge of the game. So
for sure. I have one more question, but before I ask that, I have two interesting quotes I want to read off to you. They're actually from your head coach, Todd Bowles. The past few, I think it's about the past week or so. I don't know. Have you seen these quotes yet?
no, sir.
Okay. So this is the first quote from Todd Bowles. It's whenever he was specifically asked about you and what he has seen from you. Okay. I believe this was on June 10th, I believe. Todd Bowles said, quote, "He's a very intriguing player. We saw a lot of things on tape. Jason Light saw a lot of things on tape, and the scouts as well. He's very fast. He's got the speed of a corner and the athleticism of a corner, but he can definitely hit you and play safety. He's got versatility, and the more we look at him, he'll be an interesting guy to watch when the pads come on." Hearing a quote like that from the head coach so early on, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's pretty big. Obviously, like the versatility piece of it was something that I was hanging my hat on. So I figured it was probably going to be one of my sticking points anyways, but it definitely means a lot coming from Coach Bowles, especially. So
Yeah. And the second quote here. So, whenever asked on who will be competing for the nickel cornerback position, Bowles said this: all of them. You've got Tyke, you've got Jacob Parrish, you've got J.J. Roberts, you've got Zion McCollum. Depending on how the team shakes out and what kind of mix we have, they're all different types of players. You've got Christian Izzy, we've got a bunch of nickels. Right now, we need safeties and corners. We've got about 4 or 5 guys that can fill that nickel role. So for Bowles to mention you in that mix as well, to be possibly a guy who he says like, hey, this guy could start at nickel cornerback. Who knows? Do you see that as a potential goal for you this upcoming season, or is it kind of saying, hey, I'm gonna take smaller incremental goals at a time?
yeah, I've always been one, take, break my goals down and, be able to achieve them. They say write your goals to where it's almost impossible to achieve them, but I don't exactly believe in, doing that because then you're just going to be reaching for something that you can't grab.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to take it a day at a time. I don't like to overthink or overanalyze any situation. Just the fact that he says that means a lot to me and it definitely boosts my spirits, thinking about going into training camp and having a chance to compete for that nickel position as well. And really, this off season before training camp, I'm just going to deep dive into the playbook and come back with as much knowledge as I can, and really just maximize the opportunity that has been presented to me. So,
I love it. Well, JJ, I got one more question for you, and I always ask my guys this whenever I have them on for interviews. You obviously been through a lot, right? From transfers to pre-draft journeys to post-draft joining the Buccaneers. I'm curious, what should Bucs fans expect from you this upcoming season, both as a player and as a person?
yeah, personally, as a person, I'm very kind-hearted. I care. I'm very empathetic with people. You're not going to see me, you know, bragging or being cocky. That's just not how I am. I want people to know that I'm very down to earth. I don't think of myself above anybody else, and that's just the way I've been raised. And growing up in the church, I'm a strong Christian believer. Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be where I am without Jesus, and I don't know how things would have shaken out if it wasn't Him guiding my steps and just directing my path. So that's really just what I'm rooted on. My faith, obviously. And when it comes to football, obviously making the 53 man is the first goal. That's the first step to even playing. So right now, just making the 53 man, and I can see myself just providing on special teams and doing what I need to do, to earn a role eventually, like earn an important role in the defense. So special teams is obviously first. Special teams comes first in any of this for me. So
I love it. I love it. Well, JJ,
yeah.
where can the people find you on the social media?
Oh, Instagram is lockdown J. with an underscore
Love that,
after, and
by the way.
yeah, the same thing for my Twitter too.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, right on. Well, guys, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. JJ, thank you for being on, man. Really.
absolutely. I appreciate you having me. This has been a great. Uh,
Oh,
I
there we
do
go.
what people.
I can.
I yeah. I broke up.
Yes. Last thing I heard you say was, "This has been a great," and then it cut off.
I said this has been a great time for me. I really appreciate you. Like,
of,
I appreciate you having me on here.
of course, of course. And guys, let us
Yeah,
know everything that you think about everything that we talked about down in the comments section below about JJ, his story, and what you guys want to see from JJ this upcoming season. But guys, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, guys, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.